If you've ever wondered what great leaders do and what they don't, well, this video is for you because we're diving into the do's and don'ts of leadership. In fact, we have over 20 do's that you should do and don'ts that you should not do. If you do the do's, then you'll be on your way to being a great leader, but if you keep doing the don'ts, then you won't. What are these do's and don'ts? My name is Thomas, and let's dive in. Do. Take responsibility and ownership. Great leaders not only take responsibility and ownership of all their actions and what they do, they take ownership of the team, because ultimately, as a leader, you're responsible for the team. If the team fails, it's ultimately on you as the leader. So a leader takes ownership and then works to fix the problem. On the flip side, don't blame, because blaming just makes you look weak as a leader and it keeps you from solving the problem because you're focusing on blame versus solutions. Do pass the credit. Great leaders, they don't take the credit for themselves, but they do pass it on to others. Because when you take credit for yourself, it makes you look egotistical, first of all, but also it hurts your influence with other people. But when you pass the credit on to others, it shows you are humble, and it also builds influence with others because you're not taking it for yourself, you're giving credit to others. So do pass credit and don't take it all for yourself. Do care for your team. Great leaders build relationships and care for the people that work for them. They don't see them as tools and cogs, they see them as people who they invest in. And they know when they treat their employees well, then they will treat customers well. When they have well-motivated employees who feel cared about, because if you don't care about them, they won't feel very motivated. When you care about people and they're motivated, then they produce more and they're more loyal and you have more influence and so on. Do create an environment of safety. Don't make one of fear. Too often, leaders create environments of fear where people fear speaking up. They fear making mistakes. They fear being judged or looked down upon. They fear about hurting their career if they speak up wrongly or disagree with the boss or someone else. Or they fear speaking up because they fear judgment from the leader or from the other teammates or so on. You don't want that kind of environment. You want a culture of safety where people feel free speaking up. They feel free disagreeing with you or others. They feel free sharing ideas without fear of judgment or being looked down upon. When you create this kind of environment, you have more motivated employees and you get better ideas and solve problems better and make better decisions and more. Do provide timely feedback. When you don't give feedback, it's like you're in a submarine in the bottom of the ocean with no sonar. You have no idea where you're going, how well you're doing, or if you're on track. When you don't give feedback to your employees, they don't really know exactly how well they're doing because you're not telling them. People generally want to know how well they're doing and how they can improve and what they're doing well. So make sure you give feedback, give it frequently, and give it timely. Don't avoid feedback because it's uncomfortable, because the truth is, if you care about someone, you will give them feedback because you want them to improve. And it just makes sense in a business sense too, because why let someone keep doing stuff that's not helpful because it's not helpful to the organization or them? Don't avoid feedback, and don't wait for the yearly review or quarterly review or whatever. Give feedback as soon as you can. Also, don't think that no news is good news, because that's not really true. Do provide autonomy. Daniel Pink in his book Drive talks about autonomy as one of the driving motivators of humans. People want to feel a sense of control in their work and in their lives. And when you provide autonomy, you get more ownership from your employees and they're more motivated. On the flip side, don't micromanage, because first of all, that's really annoying. No one likes being micromanaged. It's demotivating. It hurts morale, hurts your influence, and it just really shows you're not really an effective leader if you feel like you have to micromanage your people. If you feel like you have to control your people to make them do it right, then you really need to do a good self-evaluation and really look at what's happening that makes you feel like you can't trust them. Do be clear about expectations. So many times people aren't really sure exactly what's expected of them, or the instructions given are based on assumptions that they assume someone will know what they're supposed to do. Or sometimes they think they know what they're supposed to do, but what the boss or the leaders think and what the person thinks are actually opposite, and they don't realize it's opposite until it's later down the road. You want to make sure the expectations, what the outcome's supposed to be, what people's jobs and their most important tasks are very clear to people so they know what's important and so they can focus on what's important. On the flip side, don't be vague or use assumptions. Don't assume people know what they should do. Don't assume that people see things or think things the way you think, because often that's not the case. Make sure they're clear and be careful about assumptions. One great way to help make sure you're on the page is just ask them to repeat back the expectations, or ask them what they think their expectations are, and then you can see if you're on the same page. Do communicate well. Communicate frequently and as fully clearly and transparently as you can. Don't try to hold back information or to hide information from people, because in the end, that often hurts you. And in many ways, that just makes sense. When you hide information from people, they don't feel trusted, so it hurts your influence and it hurts morale. Also, if there's something going on, people are going to come up with stories about what's going on. So if you hide information or you only give little pieces of it or whatever it may be, people will tell stories. It just often won't be true. And as humans, we often see the negative. It also makes sense in the sense that the more information your people have, the better decisions they can make and the better they can do their jobs. So the more informed they are, the better they can do. Communicate well and frequently, because if it's important, you should communicate frequently and not just expect one time to be enough. Do listen. Listening is such a powerful tool. It's how you get great ideas, how you remove stupid bureaucracy. It's how you improve things and processes and get ideas for new products and so on. Don't think you have all the answers. Too often leaders think they know better because they're in a leadership position, or they're detached from reality and they don't realize it. So they make these decisions and policies without talking to people, and they end up being bad decisions because they're out of touch. When you listen to people, not only does it give you great feedback and ideas to improve things and make things better, but it helps people feel heard and lets them know that their feedback and their voice matters. Do show appreciation. Appreciation is such a powerful tool, but too often it's not used or not used enough. Many people have quit jobs because they don't feel appreciated. They feel like what they do doesn't matter and that nobody notices. And that's a sad thing, because appreciation is not hard. Sometimes people think when they give appreciation that they'll get lax, or they should know that if they're not giving bad news and they're doing a good job, but that's a false mentality. Give appreciation and give it frequently. On the flip side, don't just give negative feedback. As humans, it's easy to focus on the negative. Even with our kids or whatever it may be, it's easy to focus on what people do wrong versus what they're doing right. But when you only give negative feedback, that's not helpful. You need the positive there too, and do more positive than negative if you can. Do handle conflict well. Conflict isn't a bad thing. That's a normal thing. Conflict is normal. In fact, you want healthy conflict in your organization. It means people are disagreeing and that they are discussing ideas and decisions so they can get the best ones. Good conflict is disagreeing about ideas. Bad conflict is when you start attacking people. On the flip side, don't avoid conflict. Now, there's different aspects of this. First, don't try to make it where everyone always disagrees, because then you're going to get worse decisions. You're not going to solve problems well, and people won't bring up ideas or deferring ideas because everyone has to agree. You want that disagreement. And with that, don't avoid dealing with conflict, because that's part of your job as a leader. If people are attacking others, or there's some kind of form of negative conflict, or you just have to confront people, when you avoid that, you're saying that negative behavior is okay, and it often makes it worse. Deal with the conflict and have good, healthy conflict on your team or organization. Do develop your team and new leaders within your team and organization. It makes sense because the better they do, the more they will produce, which helps your organization. It also helps build morale in them because you're growing them, and it helps them in their career and future growth. Don't avoid training them because you're afraid the competitors will steal them. Because here's the thing, sometimes people are going to leave, but if people are leaving your organization as fast as they can, that's not a sign that you need to stop training people. That's a sign there's something wrong with your culture. If you build a great culture and you train people well, then more and more people will stay because of your culture, especially if you're paying them fairly and so on. Do provide vision and purpose for your team. First, as an organization, you should have a purpose, a mission that you're pursuing, and you should tie everybody's work toward that mission. As a team, if you're a leader of a team, then what is your team pursuing and how does that help accomplish the mission? How does your team members' work help contribute to the team's goals and the ultimate mission of the organization? Also think of purpose in the sense of their career goals. How does their work help them move forward in their career? The more you can show purpose in what they do, the more motivated they will be. And also purpose gives direction for your team and organization to pursue and helps with decisions and so on. On the flip side, don't give no purpose or direction, because when people feel like there's no purpose in what they do, it's really demotivating. When there's no clear direction of which way you are going, then people jump this way and silos are built because there's no clear direction or vision for everyone to unite around. Do release your people to make decisions. Don't make all decisions go through you. Because when you make all decisions go through you, first of all, you become a bottleneck, and then there's a separation from your employees to the decisions. It's your decision, your ideas, your everything. There's not ownership in it. When you release people to make decisions in their jobs and things related to them, then not only does it build autonomy, it builds ownership, motivation, and so on. And the thing is, the people closest to the decision, the closest to the problem, often have the best information to make the best decisions. So the more you release the people to make decisions, generally the better things will do. Do deal with negative behaviors promptly. If someone's doing something that's improper, or they're just doing something like they're late every day, or whatever it may be, deal with it quickly. Because here's the thing, when you don't deal with it, then things generally get worse, and you're also, by your absence of saying anything, you're saying that the behavior's okay, because you're not dealing with it. So do deal with negative behaviors promptly. Don't ignore the behaviors or let them grow and fester. Do clear away as much useless bureaucracy as you can. Don't create bureaucracy and new policies and procedures and stuff as a way to control people or to passive aggressively deal with people problems. You see, often people create these policies because honestly they're not great leaders, and they try to control their people to make them do something, or instead of dealing with someone individually, they create a new rule that affects everyone instead of dealing with someone who makes the mistake or does something wrong. The problem is, when you create these policies, it hurts productivity, and as it grows and grows, it slows things down, it's demotivating, and so on. The only policies you should have, besides things for like safety or such, are policies that help make things more productive. If it helps people be more productive, then that can be a good policy, as long as you don't see it as set in stone, and as long as it can change when it doesn't help people be productive. One great question to ask people is, what policies are keeping you from doing your job better? Do model your expectations. If something is important, if your mission is important, if your values are important, if this goal is important, then model it. You have to show it yourself. If you expect certain behaviors from people, such as admitting mistakes, make sure you're the first one to do it. Model the behaviors you want. Don't have the do as I say, not as I do mentality, because just as with kids and parents, that doesn't work. Do act with humility, don't act with arrogance. It just kind of makes sense. When you're humble and you're willing to listen and learn, then people respect you more, and it builds your influence. When you're arrogant or act like you're better than other people, then of course that's going to hurt you as a leader. It keeps you from getting the information you need and learning what you need. You'll make worse decisions. People won't respect you as much. Be humble. Recognize that you don't know as much as you think you may know, that you don't know everything, and be someone who's constantly trying to learn and listen to other people, and that doesn't hold themselves above other people but sees them as equal, are there to serve their team. Do make timely decisions. Don't avoid or rush to make decisions. Sometimes people feel like they have to be decisive, so they try to rush decisions and make them fast so they can be decisive. But that's not what decisive is. Decisive is just making the decision when the decision is made. Because on the flip side, sometimes people take a long time to make decisions because they're waiting till they have all the information. They want to be 100% sure. They fear making mistakes. Both of those things can be dangerous. You want to vet the decision. You want to get the information you can, but the truth is you'll never have 100% of the information. You'll rarely, if ever, be 100% sure that the decision is the right one. You just gather the information you can, but when it's time to decide, you decide. You don't waffle, you don't go back and forth, you don't like, oh no, we might make a mistake. No, you make the decision and move forward. You're going to make mistakes sometimes you're going to be wrong, that's just part of it. But when it's time to decide, you decide and you move forward. Do serve your team. Don't think leadership is about you. You see, sometimes leaders get into these positions of leadership positions and they think leadership is about them. They think it's about their career. They think it's a reward for all their hard work. They think it's about moving forward, the perks, the money, the respect. So they're focused on them as a leader. They may be in a leadership position, but if that's the mentality, they're not really being a good leader. Great leaders aren't about themselves, they're about serving. Because leadership is about guiding people toward the accomplishment of a goal. You're guiding people and leading people to accomplish a goal. And you do that by serving your team and holding them accountable and doing the hard work of leadership to make sure they are their best, and you lead them to accomplishing that goal by serving them. Leadership isn't about you, it's about serving the mission and your team to accomplish the mission. Do act with integrity. And this is one of those things that many people speak integrity, yada yada, but too often people get sidetracked on it and don't have as much as integrity as they claim to be. Having integrity, being one who tells the truth, who doesn't cut corners, who isn't unethical, is important for many reasons, not just for legal, but because when you are someone who lies or is unreliable, then you lose trust with people, you lose influence with people, and you can't lead as well because of that. People won't respect you as much. But when you're someone with integrity, people trust your word. That means a lot. That builds influence, and you can accomplish much more as a leader because of that. Don't do whatever it takes to succeed, because in the end, it will hurt you. Do delegate effectively. As a leader, you are supposed to delegate. That's part of what you do. You're not doing all the work yourself. You're accomplishing work through other people, and you're leading them toward that goal, toward the accomplishment of what they need to do. Your job begins to serve, and part of that is delegating tasks and work to those people to do that work. So don't try to do it all yourself. Also, don't micromanage when you delegate, because you want to set clear expectations, provide training resources, the support, etc., and then release them to do it. You do hold them accountable. You don't abdicate your job as a leader to make sure things are accomplished, but you don't micromanage. Delegate well. Do ask for feedback and listen to criticism. When you do that, not only do you learn a lot, but it helps people know that you're someone who listens. When that happens, though, don't respond defensively or argue or get angry or upset or negative, because people will stop sharing feedback with you. You want people to share feedback, so the best thing you can do when people gives feedback, even when you disagree, is just to say, thank you. Do encourage disagreement. If everyone agrees in your meetings, that's not a good sign, that's a bad sign. It means people fear speaking up in meetings. So often what happens is people agree in the meetings and then they talk negatively about whatever the decision was outside the meeting. You want people to feel safe disagreeing in meetings and let them know that it's okay, even when they disagree with you. On the flip side, don't try to get consensus on everything. Because here's the thing, first of all, sometimes people think you need consensus so that people will agree with it. But that's not what's important. What you want is agreement of action, not of mind. You want an environment where people feel free speaking up and disagreeing, but once a decision is made, then everybody acts on that decision. Also, when you always try to get consensus, it takes so much time, and you give those people who are disagreeing much more power than they should have. Do guide your team in solving problems. Don't solve it all for them. Sometimes leaders feel like they are supposed to solve their team's problems. So when someone has a problem, the team member comes to them and they take it on them to solve the problem. Or maybe they don't trust the team, so they make their team come to them. But here's the thing, when you do that, not only do you get overloaded and burned out, and it keeps you from doing the work that you should be doing, but it also doesn't grow your team. They become dependent on you and rely on you. They don't use their critical thinking. When you help guide them in their problem solving, when you ask questions and help them solve the problems, then they grow in their critical thinking. They learn how to solve problems themselves, and over time they can do it without you because you've helped them grow in those areas. Help your people learn, don't solve it all for them. Do, when you make a mistake, admit it or acknowledge it. And when you don't know something, say so. Don't try to hide your mistakes or try to pretend you know something when you don't. Because when you do, that just hurts you. People often see your mistakes, and when you hide it, it just makes you look fake, like a liar, and people respect you less. When you pretend to know something when you don't, it just makes you look weak as a leader, and people often will find out that you are lying, and it just hurts you. When you admit your mistakes, when you show vulnerability, that's a good thing, because it teaches others to do the same. As a leader, you aren't expected to know everything. You aren't expected to never make a mistake. What's expected is that when you make a mistake, you admit to it, and that when you don't know something, you say so. It teaches others to do the same, which is what you want, and it helps build influence with people. Do be about the best idea. Don't hold on to your idea like it's your baby. Sometimes leaders come into meetings or whatever situation, and they have this idea that they like. They want this idea, so they push it in the meeting. And it doesn't matter what other people say, this is their idea, it's going forward. They push aside disagreement. They may get angry at people who disagree. Whatever it may be, they disregard it, they push it aside, and they focus on making what they want happen. That does not help you in any way. Not only do you hurt your influence and the respect you have with your team, not only does it keep people from speaking up, you can also make stupid decisions that way. Because often your ideas may not be as perfect as you think. When you take the time to listen to other ideas and see what problems could be with your idea or what alternative ideas may be, then you can see what will work and what won't, and you can make better decisions. No one should ever attach themselves to an idea. You should never attach yourself to an idea. You should always be about the best idea, not your idea. As a leader, do be constantly learning. Don't think you've ever arrived, because truthfully, if you think you've arrived, that's a good sign that you haven't. Leadership is an ongoing process. It's constantly learning, constantly growing, and the more you grow, the better you will be, just like in any other kind of skill. So always be learning, never think you're there. Those were the do's and don'ts of leadership. And if you want to keep growing as a leader, make sure to watch this video right here.